CIA operative Todd Delmonico drove his '53 Buick to meet Keith Kincaid. It had rained that day, but was it normal rain or was it chubby rain? If you get that reference, awesome. If you don't, it's from a movie called Bowfinger. It came out in the late 90s. It's one of my favorites. It's got Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy in it. It's kind of about this down and out movie director that kind of cheats his way into the industry by kind of following around this huge movie star and shooting things around him in his daily life. So Eddie Murphy plays this movie star who's already kind of on the verge of a breakdown, and all of a sudden this like really weird alien stuff starts happening around him. It's very funny. I honestly think it's one of Eddie Murphy's best roles ever. Like he plays the big movie star, Kit Ramsey, but he also plays his brother who's super nerdy and awkward. Anyway, it's a great movie if you haven't seen it. But the movie that they make in the movie is called Chubby Rain, and it's about aliens that invade Earth by falling from the sky in raindrops, making the rain chubby. Chubby rain. Which is a ridiculous premise, obviously. That's what makes it funny, because, you know, nothing like that could ever happen in real life. Or could. In 1994, the small town of Oakville, Washington, population 600, was hit by a rainstorm. Nothing unusual in the Pacific Northwest, it rains there most of the year. Only this rain was different. It looked like hail. People thought it was hail when it first came down, but when they touched it, it was squishy, it was gooey. One might even say blobby. Blobby! Yeah, this was 1994. The Toxic Lady story that I just did a month ago or so, that was also in 1994. 1994 was a weird year. Anyway, one person who experienced this was a police officer named David Lacey. His story, which was actually featured on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, was that he was, out on patrol the morning of August 7th, and this rain started coming down. But when he ran his wipers, it just kind of smeared it all over the windshield. It didn't clear his windshield. So he pulled over to a gas station on the side of the road and put on some latex gloves to check it out just to be safe. Unfortunately, that extra caution didn't help, because within 24 hours, Officer Lacey would stumble into the emergency room, barely able to breathe. And he wasn't the only one. Worse off was a woman named Dottie Hearn, who actually passed out in her home. She was found on her bathroom floor an hour later by her daughter Sunny and her son Donnie. Dottie, Donnie, Sunny, I'm sure that never got confusing. So Dottie was admitted to the hospital. Initially, she was diagnosed with Meniere's disease, which is kind of an inner ear condition that can cause dizziness and confusion. But after a few days in the hospital, they decided that actually it was a viral infection. She did recover over time, so did Officer Lacey and the other sick humans. Thankfully, nobody died, but there were a lot of animal deaths that were reported because of this rain. In fact, Dottie had several barn cats that died. Luckily, larger animals seemed to fare better. Dottie had 2 dogs that got sick, but they recovered. Dottie must have been an animal lover, I guess. And sadly, those weren't the only animals that died. This happened over 5 different rains that occurred over 3 weeks in August. Sunny was understandably alarmed by all this. She actually had a background in occupational safety, so she knew some people at the Washington Department of Health, so she gathered up some samples, sent it to them for analyzation. And the DOH found 2 types of bacteria in the sample. One's called Pseudomonas fluorescens, which is a common bacteria that can be harmful to humans, but usually only those with compromised immune systems. And the other was Enterobacter calaceae, which is found all over the place, but it's known to contribute to infections of the lungs, blood, and urinary tract. So there's a fairly common bacteria, nothing too weird, but the blobs themselves, that's a whole other story. So the opinion of the epidemiologist who studied the sample was that it was man-made, which is a pretty bold statement that would require some more testing to be done on the sample to confirm. So did they do more testing on the sample? Well, put your tinfoil hat on, people, because here's where things get even weirder. The sample disappeared. They couldn't find it. And here come the theories. Theory number 1 is star jelly. Star jelly is kind of a catch-all term for jelly-like substances that are occasionally found on the ground. These days, there's sometimes pollution. Like there was a story that happened up here in Frisco, Texas that involved bunches of purple gloop that looked like whipped cream that came up on a lady's yard, but they were probably just chemicals used to clean batteries that fell off a truck. A more ancient explanation for star jelly is slime molds. Slime molds tend to get frothy and congeal when they multiply. Also, clusters of frog or toad eggs have been called star jelly, even some types of bird puke. Nature's kind of gross. The problem that you might have already noticed with all this is that none of that stuff falls from the sky. Even birds tend to puke when they're on the ground. But there was a case one time where meat fell from the sky. I think this was in West Virginia, and they found out that it was actually like a flock of vultures that all kind of puked at the same time, so I guess it's not totally out of the question. Another theory is that it's jellyfish. Jellyfish are also not known for falling from the sky. But many local residents did report an increase in military air traffic around that time of the blob rain. Turns out there were some bombing exercises going on relatively close by. So the theory is that the US Navy just kind of blasted a bunch of jellyfish out of the ocean, and then those jellyfish bits got up into the clouds and then came down as rain. That would explain what the blobs felt like, I guess, but almost nothing else. They would have had to fly 50 miles and rain down sporadically for 21 days, so. Something that does fall out of the sky sometimes is human waste. Sometimes. Yeah, one Washington ecologist suggested that maybe the blobs were waste from an airplane. Airplanes do sometimes release the contents of their toilets over unpopulated places, but the main piece of evidence that points to that is actually something I didn't mention before. So I mentioned earlier that Sunny had sent some samples to the Washington Department of Health. Well, she also sent some to the hospital where her mom was admitted. And the lab tech claimed to have found a human white blood cell mixed in with the blob. Oh, and in case you're wondering, that sample also disappeared. Now, nobody else found human cells, but the ecologist I mentioned earlier did see evidence of something biological in the gel. Human waste is biological, obviously. The problem with this theory is that everything that goes into a plain septic tank is dyed blue from that antiseptic. I mean, you've seen it, you know what it looks like. And the Oakville Blobs are colorless. Plus, we kind of know what septic tank stuff looks and smells like. I feel like that would have been solved pretty quickly. Not to mention, again, this took place over 21 days. So if it was an airplane, what were they serving on that thing? Another theory is secret military experiments. Yeah, now we're getting into good stuff. As I said before, there were some military exercises that were happening right around the time of the blobs, waging war against jellyfish, apparently. So the rumors are that maybe these jets were, seeding the atmosphere with something. Like whatever the blobs were made of was kind of a microorganism medium designed to hold the bacteria or virus or whatever it was that made so many people sick. This is very tinfoil hatty, but this has actually happened before. In 1950, the US Navy conducted a test over San Francisco called Operation Sea Spray, where they sprayed a couple of different types of bacteria over the city just to see how it would fare in the event of a biological attack. So they conducted a biological attack to see how people would respond to a biological attack. Now these were fairly harmless bacteria, that's why they were chosen, but there was a rash of extremely rare urinary tract infections that happened just after. And similar tests were done in New York, Key West, Panama City, Washington, D.C., and along the Pennsylvania Turnpike. In fact, a lot of this was revealed in a Senate subcommittee hearing in 1977 where the Army admitted to doing open-air tests of biological agents 239 times between 1949 and 1969. So it's not the craziest idea. In fact, Sunny Barcliffe, who I keep quoting for this story, she thinks that's the answer. Not to mention if it's some secret military thing, that would explain why the samples went missing. Of course, another explanation for why they went missing was because they just went missing. Things get misplaced all the time. I mean, especially if it goes into my wife's purse. I mean, the people who tested those samples, they probably didn't know that they were sitting on a mystery that would still be debated 30 years later. They probably didn't have a post-it on there saying, mystery sky shit, don't throw away. I mean, the cooler may have needed to be cleaned, or maybe they had a bunch of life-saving medicine they needed room for. Maybe Kevin didn't have anywhere else to put his leftover pork sandwich. Damn it, Kevin. Maybe it was a secret experiment. Maybe it was some gelatin dust from a factory or a farm or something that got swept up into the clouds and soaked up the condensation and gathered some cooties along the way. There could be a totally natural and rational explanation for this. Nature be crazy sometimes. It just hasn't been decisively proven, and it probably never will be, unless it happens again. But as always with stories like this, they tend to become more embellished over time to the point that it's kind of hard to determine what's fact from legend, which honestly kind of made writing this video hard because, I mean, most of the details that I could find came from Unsolved Mysteries. I did try to use info from various places as much as possible. In fact, my writer, Ryan, came across an article in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer that came out earlier that month. This puts an interesting spin on things. This article reported that the National Weather Service took a phone call from a concerned father who complained of, quote, hot metallic particles from the sky that burned holes in his children's trampoline. I mean, maybe those were the remnants of an alien spaceship that blew up in the upper atmosphere? And then the aliens got into the clouds and came down to the ground in the rain. In the chubby rain. Gotcha, suckers! You know, it really helps to see the movie to get the references. One place you might be more likely to see blobs is in your kitchen, because you suck at cooking. But that's okay, because you don't have to be a professional chef to make restaurant quality meals with today's sponsor, HelloFresh. That's because HelloFresh does all the thinking for you. They've got professional chefs that create the recipes, they give you all the ingredients pre-proportioned so you don't have to measure anything, and they even give you pictures that you can go off of, so even the least competent cook can pull it off. It saves you time because you don't have to go to the store, and besides, a lot of the ingredients you might not even find at your local store. This gives you a chance to check out flavor combinations that you've never even had before. I mean, it opens you up to a lot of possibilities that you may have never been exposed to. Like Tuscan spice shrimp, one-pan shawarma chicken and rice, and rosemary demi-glazed pork chops, plus plenty of vegetarian options as well. Plus the food is fresher than you're likely to find in the store because they buy it directly from farmers. It means it costs less too. Plus it's just a fun way to spend the evening. My wife and I love cooking together. And by the way, pro tip, a little wine and music gives it just the right good stuff. So if you want to give it a try and see what it's all about, go to HelloFresh.com and enter the code JoeScott18 for 18 free meals, including free shipping. And by the way, if you haven't done HelloFresh, that is so much food. Like I can never eat all of it at once. I have to split it up into like at least 2 different meals. So I mean, that's so much food. So yeah, just give it a try. You got nothing to lose. Just enter JoeScott18 at sign up. You get a ton of free food and memories that will last a lifetime. Okay, I can't promise that, but the food's really good. All right, big thanks to HelloFresh for supporting this video, and a huge shout out to the Answer Files on Patreon and the channel members that are supporting this channel financially. Just being an awesome community. I really can't thank you guys enough. Yeah, let me read off some new names real quick. We got Darcy Mike, Teresa Power, David Vance, Tracy Mikulek, Ian Knutson, Luke Hamblin, Jackery, Dylan Booth, JC, Brian Beswick. Brian, why are you on here too? And 12 Foot. Thank you guys so much. If you would like to join them, get early access to videos, access to exclusive live streams, as well as getting a little thing by your name down in the comments so you stand out, show that you're more important than everybody else. just click the little join link down below. By the way, new t-shirt. I have been promoting the new the merch stuff that's in the store now. If you haven't been there, it's answersofjoe.com/store. There's all kinds of fun stuff. We're gonna be adding a lot of more stuff as time goes on. But this is a brand new one, kind of fun. This is how my day was made because the earth is rotating. You get it, because you're smart. Please do like and share this video if you liked it. And if this is your first time here, Google thinks you'll like this one because they've been watching you. Don't think about it too much. There's also all these thumbnails down here on the side. If you're on your browser that have my little face on them, give them a click, take a look at them, and if you like them, I do invite you to subscribe. I come back with videos every Monday. All right, that's it for now. You guys go out there, have an eye-opening rest of the week, stay safe, don't touch any blobs on the ground, and I'll see you next Monday. Love you guys. Take care.